Every year, thousands of fossils get pulled out of the ground. Almost all of them are things we already understand. A new species of trilobite here, another dinosaur bone there. But every so often, something comes out of the rock that doesn't fit anywhere. Not a new species of something familiar, something science genuinely cannot place. No phylum, no family, sometimes not even a kingdom. These are the fossils that have sat in museum drawers for decades, defeating expert after expert. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why some of the smartest people on Earth still have no idea what they're looking at. In 1966, an amateur fossil collector was digging through a rock formation in Illinois when he found something that made absolutely no sense. It had a long, tube-shaped body, two eyes sitting on the ends of rigid stalks, like a hammerhead shark crossed with a snail, and a long, flexible snout tipped with a claw-like mouth, like something pulled straight out of a deep-sea horror film. He had no idea what it was, so he brought it to the experts at Chicago's Field Museum, fully expecting an answer. They didn't have one either. What he'd found became known as the Tully Monster, and nearly 60 years later, it's still one of the most contested fossils on the planet. Guesses over the decades have ranged wildly: a mollusk, an arthropod, a worm, even a jawless fish. The only thing almost everyone agrees on is that it lived in water, specifically the shallow tropical sea that covered Illinois around 300 million years ago, back when this now landlocked state was submerged coastline. Most specimens are barely over a foot long, which almost makes the confusion worse. This isn't some enormous, alien sea monster that's hard to study because it's rare and fragmented. Paleontologists have found hundreds of these things. They can see the whole body. They just can't agree on what kind of animal it belongs to. The closest scientists have come to an answer is technically true and almost useless. It's a bilaterian, meaning it has a left and right side that mirror each other. The problem is that roughly 98% of all animals on Earth are bilaterians. Saying the Tully Monster fits into that category is like trying to identify a specific car by saying it has wheels. What we do have a slightly better handle on is how it lived. That claw-tipped proboscis strongly suggests it was a predator, hunting through the water column in murky conditions rather than sitting still on the seafloor. But what animal group it actually belongs to on the Tree of Life? Still completely unresolved. If the Tully Monster sounds strange, meet the fossil researchers nicknamed the alien goldfish. Officially known as Typhloesus, this creature was pulled from Montana's Bear Gulch limestone formation, and it's actually older than the Tully Monster, dating back roughly 330 million years. This fossil was so baffling that for years, researchers avoided studying it altogether. Nobody wanted to touch the headache. What little they could agree on was basic: a spindle-shaped body, small in size, with a single tail fin suggesting it could swim under its own power. Beyond that, things only got stranger. It had no visible limbs, no clear head, and this is the detail that really stumps scientists: no mouth, no gut, and no anus that anyone could identify. Very viscous, packed with unusually high concentrations of iron. To this day, nobody knows what it actually did. For a while, researchers thought they'd cracked it. A related fossil turned up with tooth-like structures resembling those of conodonts, an ancient group of jawless vertebrates. For a moment, it looked like Typhloesus might finally have a home on the family tree. Then someone realized those teeth weren't part of its body at all. They were sitting in its gut. In other words, they weren't proof of what Typhloesus was, they were proof of what it had just eaten. That discovery told researchers one useful thing: it was a predator, while erasing the one clue that had briefly seemed promising. The most recent development came decades later, in 2022, when a new study proposed that Typhloesus might be some kind of mollusk, based on the discovery of a tongue-like feeding structure similar to a mollusk's radula. It's a structure some mollusks use today to rasp food apart, except radula-like structures have since turned up in animals that definitely aren't mollusks, which means even this best guess yet comes with an asterisk. The same Illinois formation that produced the Tully Monster has handed paleontologists 2 more fossils, so strange that scientists gave up trying to name them anything descriptive, and just described their shapes using letters of the alphabet. The first, A chistrum genuinely looks like the letter H, with an odd growth branching out from its center. Researchers aren't sure what its limb-like structures were for, but the leading theory is that it was a colonial organism, filtering free-floating particles out of the water, growing continuously throughout its life. That last part explains why specimens have been found in such wildly different sizes, and even different shapes, with the central sac appearing circular in some fossils and heart-shaped in others. The best guess for where it belongs on the tree of life points toward the hemichordates, the group that includes today's acorn worms. But it's a guess resting on thin evidence. Its neighbor, Ischomachia, looks almost tame by comparison, with the shape closer to the letter Y. But taxonomically, it's caused even more trouble. At first glance, it resembles a sea anemone, except it has features anemones don't: a body plan with left-right symmetry rather than radial symmetry, a complete digestive tract running all the way through, and an exit at the other end, details that don't fit the anemone body plan at all. All we can say with any confidence is that it had a mouth, formed by a large slit between arm-like structures whose function remains a mystery. Scientists aren't even fully sure those structures qualify as arms. 2 fossils, same rock formation, both reduced to single letters because nobody could agree on anything more specific. If you think the fossils so far sound confusing, an entire geological period exists where confusion is basically the default. The Ediacaran, running from around 635 to about 539 million years ago, is the first stretch of Earth's history where large, complex life shows up in the fossil record in real numbers. And a huge amount of it doesn't look like anything alive today. Take Dickinsonia, a flat, ridged, oval-shaped organism that looks almost exactly like a bath mat, except it moved and fed on its own. For decades, scientists debated whether it was even an animal at all. It's now grouped with a collection of similarly bizarre, mat-like organisms into a proposed classification called the Proarticulata group, defined less by what its members are and more by the fact that nobody can cleanly place them anywhere else. Here's the part that really irritates researchers. These organisms look almost perfectly symmetrical at first glance, but they're not. One side never quite mirrors the other, a subtle offset called glide reflection symmetry that doesn't match how bilateral animals are built today. And in a genuinely unsettling twist, some researchers believe entire branches of this group left no descendants whatsoever. Not ancestors of anything alive now, a dead end, preserved in stone, presenting a whole experiment in complex life that simply stopped. Now for the fossil so old that scientists can even agree it's a fossil. In Gabon, West Africa, researchers discovered a massive deposit of black shale dating back roughly 2.1 billion years, containing strange disc-shaped and tube-shaped structures, some almost resembling strings of pearls, others oddly flower-like. The problem is the math. These structures are more than 400 million years older than the previously accepted oldest evidence of complex, multicellular life anywhere on Earth. That's an enormous claim to make from a rock formation. So for years, opinions split sharply. Some researchers argued these were genuine colonial organisms, while others insisted they were just mineral formations, the accidental byproduct of chemistry, not biology. The debate has shifted over time. More recent isotopic analysis found unusual zinc enrichment in the structures, a pattern that can indicate biological metabolic activity, and separate research has suggested the surrounding environment, shallow, nutrient-rich deltas, had the right conditions to support early life. It's still not settled science, but the pendulum has been swinging toward, yes, these might actually be alive, which, if confirmed, would push back the known origin of complex life on Earth by hundreds of millions of years. Not every confusing fossil looks like something out of a nightmare. Some cause chaos specifically because they look familiar until you look closer. In 1910, a fossil pulled from the legendary Burgess Shale was described as looking like a stretched-out shrimp, and it was named Nectocaris, the swimming shrimp. For decades, that description stuck loosely. One researcher later proposed it might actually be a chordate, pointing to what looked like a tail fin and a notochord, the flexible rod found in the ancestors of all vertebrates. That idea held for over 20 years. Then, in 2010, everything changed. 91 new specimens turned up in much better condition, and they revealed that the original shrimp description was based on an incomplete, poorly preserved fossil. The real animal looked nothing like a shrimp. It had a flat, kite-shaped body, 2 tentacles, 2 stalked eyes, and strangest of all, no visible mouth. Just a large funnel structure that may have been a reversible proboscis, capable of turning itself inside out. Suddenly, this looked a lot like a cephalopod, the group that includes squid and octopuses. And if that identification held, it would make Nectocaris the oldest cephalopod ever found, by roughly 30 million years. That's the kind of find that rewrites textbooks. Except it created a new problem. Its anatomy didn't line up with what we know about how cephalopods evolved. It was essentially like finding a fossil that looked exactly like a modern human, millions of years before even the earliest primates existed. The timeline didn't work, so the cephalopod classification was ultimately dropped. A closely related fossil turned up in 2019 and was named Nectocotis, and together the two now sit in an unresolved, informally named family group that still doesn't have an official home on the tree of life. Here's the thing that makes all of these fossils worth caring about. It's easy to assume paleontology is a finished puzzle, that we've basically figured out the shape of life on Earth, and modern discoveries are just filling in small gaps. These fossils are proof that isn't true. 6 separate cases, spanning over 2 billion years of Earth's history, and in every single one, some of the most qualified scientists on the planet still can't tell you exactly what they're looking at. That's not a failure of science. It's a reminder of how much of the story is still missing, and how strange the true diversity of life on Earth has actually been. If a discovery like this ever gets solved, you'll see it here first. Until then, subscribe, because apparently even scientists are still guessing. See you in the next one.